Hey guys, Spirit of the Law here. In this video, we'll take a look at a significant change to the Bulgarian Knight line. Previously, their Castle Age unique tech stirrups gave 33% faster attack speed to the light cavalry and the mounted Conic, but it now gives the same effect for knights as well. To offset that, Bulgarians lose access to the Paladin, which for me raises the question of whether this is a net positive for Bulgarian heavy cavalry or a nerf. Before we get to the Cavalier-Paladin comparison though, I think there's really 4 distinct phases worth looking at, and I'll try to highlight how I think the Bulgarian Knight line holds up through the various stages of the game against some of the more established knight civilizations. We'll start things off in the early castle, by which I mean the first few minutes after researching it, which is a point that Bulgarians don't really shine. Their only economy bonus is less stone for their town centers, whereas a lot of other civilizations have much more relevant and immediate power spikes, like Magyars getting the free attack upgrade, Teutons getting extra melee armor, Huns being created faster from stables, and Franks having more line of sight on top of what ends up being essentially free bloodlines on their knights. Most of the time, you're not ready to throw down a castle and grab a unique tech right at the start of Castle Age, so I'd argue Bulgarians get off to an unremarkable start. In fact, I'd argue even some non-cavalry civilizations like Japanese have a better early night rush than Bulgarians. Now all that said, things start to change when we get into what I'll call the late Castle Age. There isn't an exact time for this, but I'll say it's the point that you can afford a castle and will have researched stirrups, and this is when things get interesting. After their unique tech, Bulgarian knights beat generic ones with 32 out of their 120 HP left. That's a pretty significant difference, and remember that small advantages tend to compound in larger battles. While their units might individually win with maybe 27% of their HP left, in practice that can quickly snowball into something much more one-sided. Even against Teuton knights with their +1 melee armor or Lithuanian knights with +2 from relics, the Bulgarians still have an edge, making them reliably the strongest knights in late Castle Age. I say reliably and not always because if you can get more than 2 relics as Lithuanians, then those are technically the best in melee. In case you're wondering, the Bulgarian unique unit will still win one-on-one and is also going to hold it better against anti-cavalry units, so it's nice to see there's still an argument to be made for going with that over the knight line in some situations. Something I think is worth quickly noting here is that the first attack is never affected by the bonus. It's the charge time before every subsequent attack that's made shorter, which means for lower HP targets you'll see less of an impact, but I'm going to be comparing knights at full health to keep things relatively simple and just give the bigger picture. Now this has all been just for the Castle Age, but to sum up, Stirrup sends them from being unremarkable early on to beating basically everybody else's knights after that tech. Now let's switch to the early Imperial Age. This is what I'll call the relatively short window for the first few minutes where the knight line becomes all about the Cavalier. The Paladin upgrade takes almost 3 minutes to come in and costs around the same as Imperial Age, on top of trying to pay for all of the other techs that you want as soon as you advance. The point is, it's not an automatic and instantaneous thing that fully upgraded Paladins come in, so do Bulgarians at that point still have the best knight line in the game? Well, the answer is a resounding mostly. That is, they beat generic Cavaliers, Frank Cavaliers, Teuton Cavaliers with their 2 extra melee armor, and even Lithuanian Cavaliers with 3 relics, just barely losing out against Lithuanians with 4 relics. Still, putting that one exception aside, Bulgarian Cavaliers I'd say are hands down the best for the first few minutes in Imperial Age. But that brings us to what I've been building toward, which is the late Imperial Age. Are faster attacking Bulgarian Cavaliers on the same level as Paladins? This one's pretty clear cut, and they're just not. At that stage, the faster attack isn't enough to offset having 40 less HP and doing 2 less damage. And these are just generic Paladins they're losing against. It's even more one-sided when we get to the other civilizations with proper bonuses. The only Paladins they can beat are ones without bloodlines, so Byzantines and Celts. And in general, it's safe to say the Bulgarians have lost a bit in late-game melee battles. As expected against other units like Champions, Halberdiers, and Hussars, the Paladin holds up better than the Bulgarian Cavalier, and in fact there's an argument the Cavaliers have even been a little worse than shown in most of my tests, since fighting the Paladin's high HP gives their attack rate the maximum time to shine. Now there is a silver lining, which is that even if they don't end up being as good as their Paladins used to be, Bulgarians save on not having to pay for the expensive Paladin upgrade. Even if the Paladin is better, it's going to take a bit of time for that slight edge to end up paying for itself. But this still isn't a totally satisfying answer for me. How do they compare to some of the other top tier Cavaliers? Well, for starters, they're roughly on par with Malian Cavaliers with Farimba. It's not a large advantage, but they certainly can keep up. Berbers are also a bit unusual because of their discount, and can leverage that into an advantage if they can field a Cavalier army of the same cost. Also, just in case you're wondering, they will still lose one-on-one against the elite Conic. The difference though is maybe surprisingly small. This is also to say nothing of the effect their lower HP and Pierce armor have against archers and defenses. In fact, that's where I'd say their largest drop-off is in the late game, going from previously taking 60 arbalest shots to now just 35. Even the elite Conic can take more if you include its dismounted version's HP as well. To put it all together, I think while Stirrups gives a large bump in late Castle Age and carries through to early Imperial, eventually they are going to be behind where they would have been with Paladin. Practically speaking, I think the change helps a lot on open maps, where you can consistently take advantage of a power spike in late Castle and early Imperial. But at the same time, I think it's a slight nerf on maps like Black Forest, where you're often trading and the games will go to a stage where you will see Paladin. In that late game situation, I think the elite Conic is now more appealing than ever. That's all for this one though. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.